Hi y'all, and welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell by the title, today I'm going to be doing a story time on my experience as a teen mom. Recently on Instagram I posted a photo of me and my son, and the caption was 15 versus 15, and there's a whole story behind why we decided to make the caption that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to be talking about how I became a teen mom, my experiences as a teen mom, and then I'm going to be talking at the end about why I decided to go ahead and upload this video. Because if you don't know me, I'm a very private person and I do not like to talk about my personal experiences at all, but especially not on the internet. But after I thought about it, I decided to go ahead and upload the video, and I will tell you guys why at the end. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump straight into it and go back to when I actually became a teen mom. So I met my son's father when I was 11 years old, and I lost my virginity to him when I was 14. The day that I lost my virginity is also the same day that I got pregnant with my son. Now, I did not know I was pregnant until about 4 months or so later. And honestly, y'all, I was 14, and I just didn't know anything about pregnancy. Like, I didn't know what the signs of pregnancy was, and honestly, I just thought like I would like never get pregnant. It would never be me. So I just really honestly never put two and two together at all. It like never even crossed my mind that I could be pregnant. So what made me actually realize that is a possibility that I could be pregnant is that I started to feel like little flutters in my stomach, and I was like, what is that? Like, I had never experienced that before. I had no idea what it was, and initially I shook it off. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I shook it off. And then once it kept happening, it finally started to click to me like I could be pregnant. And I had to go back and really think like, when is the last time I had my period, you know, and all of that. And I was like, well, it's no way. Like, I didn't have a lot of knowledge on the subject, but I was like, I've only ever had sex twice. It was both in the same month, and that was like 4 to 5 months ago. So I was like, there's no way that I'm 4 to 5 months pregnant. So I just kept thinking. I was like, when is the last time I had my cycle and everything? And I just realized that I hadn't had a cycle in months, and I had never even thought about it until that point. So I'm realizing it's finally sinking in that I'm actually pregnant. Nobody knows except me. I haven't told my family. I haven't told my son's father. Nobody. And at this point, it's about 2 weeks from my 15th birthday party. And like, everything's paid for. Like, we're 2 weeks away, so like everything's paid for. Everybody's invited. Like, we handed out flyers. I had invited my son's father to the party, and at this point I hadn't talked to him in about maybe 2 months or so, and I don't remember why. I just think it was one of those things where we kind of just like stopped staying in touch with each other. But when I found out I was having a birthday party, I did invite him, and he had planned on coming. So at this party, I just decided I was going to go ahead and have the party. I was going to not tell anybody about the pregnancy until after the party, but I was going to tell my son's father at the party, but my family, I was going to tell them after the party. So the party comes, everybody shows up, my son's father is there, and I'm like so nervous. I'm like, so this is the day that I'm going to tell him that I'm pregnant. I'm going to try to talk him into telling my family with me. Like, I'm just so nervous, y'all. And before I can even get the chance to tell him and my brother, for those of you who don't know, is like the key to my heart. Like, we are like rocks. Like, that's my rock. So my kid's father and my brother get into it, and it's like heated. And my kid's father decides that he gonna leave because he was like, it's your birthday, you know, I'm not trying to mess up your party, so I'm just gonna leave. And I was so upset, y'all. I was like, this is the night that I'm gonna tell him. And then not only that, it's like my brother is my favorite person in the world. So not only, you know, did I not get the chance to tell him, well, tell my son's father that I'm pregnant. Now how am I going to tell my brother that I'm pregnant, and he don't even like the guy that I'm pregnant by? So after that, like, I had like worked up like the nerve to actually tell everybody. But then after that event happened, it kind of like broke my spirits, and I just cannot get the words to come out my mouth to tell anyone after that. And I didn't. I slept on this for like a whole nother month, and I didn't even say nothing to nobody. And it's not that I didn't want to or that I was scared or anything. It was just like, it's kind of hard to explain. I just could not get the words to come out my mouth to tell anybody. And what happened was, my sister came to me one day, and another backstory, I was living with my sister at this time. So for me growing up, majority of my childhood, my sister and my brother were like my parents, so they pretty much took care of me. So I was living with my sister during this time, and she came to me one day and she just flat out asked me, she was like, are you pregnant? And I was like, yeah, like I am. So she asked me, how far along am I? And I'm like, well, I don't know, but the last time I've had sex was in April, and that's the only 2 times I've ever had sex. And she's like, there's no way that's the last time you had sex. And I was like, I'm not lying, like, that's it. And she's like, well, you're not even showing, and that will make you like 7 months pregnant, and there's just no way. But she was like, we're just gonna go and we're gonna get you a doctor's appointment so we can like find out everything. So we go to the doctor the next week, and the doctor confirms everything. He's like, I can't remember, I was either like 28 or 29 weeks pregnant at the time, and he was like, it's a full out baby in there. And my sister, the look on her face, I don't think I've ever seen someone be that shocked before in my whole life. Like, even still to this day, like when he told her I was 29 weeks pregnant, she just could not believe it. And honestly, neither could I. And I just remember them giving me like these time frames and telling me my due date, and that I would be having a baby in a couple months, because at that time I really didn't know how long, you know, a woman carried a child or how long pregnancy was. Like, I knew nothing about it. So I'm like listening to all this, and it was a lot of information to process, if I'm being honest with you. Like, they was telling me about like the pregnancy timelines and like my options. And I remember them saying, like, at that point, because I was so far along, I really couldn't even consider not keeping him unless I went to like New York or somewhere to have an abortion. That was like the only place that I could go at that time to have an abortion. But honestly, even if that wouldn't have been the case, I wouldn't have done it anyway. And I always try to explain this to people, and it's kind of hard to put in words because it's such a like powerful feeling. But there was something, like when it really started to sink into me that I was pregnant, it was something, a feeling that I had always had with me, that like this was supposed to happen. It sounds crazy, and it's hard to word it any other way, but something about that entire pregnancy, when I was experiencing it, it felt like this was what was supposed to happen. Like, this child was supposed to be here. And I just had to accept the fact that I was getting ready to have a kid. So we leave the hospital, and when we leave the doctor's office, and my sister asked me, she's like, who all do you want to tell? Do you want to tell the family so that they can help us, you know, get stuff together? I was like, no, I don't want to tell anybody except my mama and my brother. So she's like, okay. And the reason for that is because when I was younger, even now to this day, my family has always had really high hopes for me. They was always like, you know, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do great things. I was always like that golden child. Even for my mom, like my brother and sister didn't get a chance to graduate high school, so I was gonna be that child that graduated from high school. At this time, I'm a straight A student. Like I stay out of trouble. I'm in the house. Like from the outside looking in, you would have thought I was like the perfect kid. So it was really hard for me to tell everyone that I was pregnant and to kind of like let them down in a way. So I just didn't want to tell anybody. But we did end up telling my mom, and we did end up telling my brother. And you know, they took it kind of hard. So I don't know if you guys have ever like disappointed someone or hurt someone or like broke somebody's heart or anything like that, but if you have, then you know. And if you don't know, let me tell you, it is the hardest thing to experience. Like to see the look on somebody's face when they like receive some information that like hurts them, and you know that you're the person who caused it. That is hard to deal with. So I had to accept that. Like I had to accept that like that was, you know, my fault. Like I'm having to tell them something that I know they're not going to be, you know, okay with, or they're not going to be happy with. And that was probably the hardest thing for the whole experience. And you know, like after I seen that, it really kind of like set in stone a lot of things for me. Because after I had to tell them that, the last thing I wanted to do after that was let them down like any further. So I was like, I don't know how, you know, I'm gonna do this, how I'm gonna fix this, like how I'm still going to, you know, accomplish all these things that they wanted from me, like how I'm gonna finish school, you know, how I'm gonna keep my grades up. Like I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I just knew that I was going to do it, because I couldn't like experience that letdown that I had gave them again. Like I couldn't do that again. So I had just remember, like after that day, just thinking to myself, like, you want to figure this out. Like you gonna have to just do, you know, whatever it is that you got to do, you know, to not continue to let them down. So about a month had passed since my doctor's appointment, and it's getting kind of close to Christmas. And my sister came to me and she said, have you told your child's father that you're pregnant? And I told her that I didn't. And she asked me why, and I had explained to her that honestly I had just accepted the fact that he wasn't going to be around, and I didn't want to deal with it, so I wasn't going to tell him. And that's because everyone who kind of did know, like my family and friends that I felt comfortable telling, I kind of only got negative feedback from them that, like, you know, this guy's young, he's not going to be around, y'all not even together, like basically like telling me don't have any hopes on this guy being around. And I'm the type of person, and I've always been like this my whole life, that if I'm gonna have to do something by myself, or you know, if I'm gonna have to struggle trying to force somebody to do something, then I'll just do it myself. And I was like, before I go through all of that, like, it's already hard enough, like preparing to be a teen mom, that I didn't want to have to deal with anything extra. So I had just made it up in my mind that I wasn't going to tell him. And the environment and the way that I grew up, you don't really see a lot of dads in households. So it was really easy for me to accept that as a reality for me, because that's what I was used to. And it made it easy for me to just make that decision to where I was like, I'm just not even going to go down that road of disappointment. Because honestly, I just didn't want to be disappointed. I didn't want to, you know, think something was going to go one way and it didn't, and then everybody would have been right. And I was scared of that. So out of fear, I guess you could say, I just had decided that I was going to avoid the whole situation. And she kind of explained to me, she was like, you know, don't make that decision for him. If you already decided that, you know, you willing to do it on your own, then if he says he's not going to be around, then you're good, because you've already, you know, accepted the fact that you could have to do this on your own. But she was like, there is a chance that he do want to be a part of this baby's life, and that'll be something you're depriving your child of if you make that decision for him. So she was like, let him, tell him, and let him make that decision himself. So after that, about a week later, you know, I finally called him and I told him, and he was just shocked. He was like, you know, it's been like honestly, he was just shocked. He was like, you know, we haven't had sex since April. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like explaining to him that I had went to the doctor and that they confirmed everything, that I was 29 weeks pregnant. That was a couple weeks ago. My due date was February 1st and all of this. So he was just like, it's a lot to take in. I'm gonna have to call you back. Like, I gotta think of it, like think on this. And I was like, okay, cool, because I completely understood that. And so about a week later, he calls me back and he's like, you know, just asked me a whole bunch of questions about my doctor's appointments. He asked me what I was having, and he said that, you know, he was scared, like he was young, but at this point, you know, I was having a baby anyway, and he wanted to be a part of it. So from that point until I actually went into labor with my son, we kind of like talked off and on. You know, he would call and check up on me, and I would call and tell him about doctor's appointments and things like that. And we're still not together at this point. So every time we talk, it's just like catching up with each other, and like me telling him about the baby. So getting into when I went into labor. I went into labor on January the 12th with my son, and my son's actual birthday is January 14th. So for 2 days, I believe it was actually like 38 hours or so of labor, and it was a life-changing experience. I won't go into all the details of, you know, everything, but I will say that the second I actually started the labor process, I was like super scared. I was so scared that I wouldn't even go to the hospital when I started my contractions. I stayed home to like the last possible second that I could stay home. And then I finally got to the point where it was like, okay, no, my contractions are close together, and I was like, okay, I definitely need to go to the hospital now. And I didn't even call my son's father at this time, because this was a lot going on. Like, I didn't even process it in my mind to call him. I just remember going to the hospital and getting there, and they're like, you're 10 and a half centimeters dilated, and you know, it's time for you to have this baby. So I had my son like immediately getting to the hospital, and right after I had my son, my sister calls my son's father and let him know that he's here and that we're in the hospital, and he says that he's gonna make it. I was in the hospital for 2 days, y'all, and he did not come. He didn't come, and he wouldn't call. Well, he didn't call or anything. So that was actually hard for me. So I'm just having this baby. I'm young, I'm scared, like, and he ain't there after he said he would be there. And I kind of felt like we're already going down the road of him not being there. This is the first day that my baby is born, and I'm like, this is exactly what I was talking about. And not only that, but I actually was so embarrassed behind this, because I don't know how it is now, but 15 years ago when I had my son, at the hospital that I had him, the people who come in to do the birth certificate, they don't let you do anything regarding the father's information. They don't let you put it on the birth certificate if he's not actually present. So that goes with the father's information as well as the father's last name. So because of that, I couldn't, and because of him not being there, I couldn't put any of his information on the birth certificate. And to make matters worse, the lady who was doing the birth certificate was so rude. I don't know if she was rude because I was a teen mom or what her problem was, but she was rude. She would come in like every 3 hours and be like, is the father here yet? Well, you know you can't do this, you know you can't do that. And she was just so rude. And normally I'm the type of person, and I've been like this since before I could walk. I would give you whatever energy you giving me, but at this point I was so emotionally beat up at this point that I couldn't even fight with this lady. And eventually I was just like, you know, he's not coming, you know, I just fill out the birth certificate right now and whatever, just so I didn't have to deal with this lady and her attitude. So I do that, we get discharged from the hospital, and I take my baby home. And I'm home, you know, I had this new baby, which I love to death, but I don't know what I'm doing, you know. And it was really hard for me because I was really doing it on my own. Like, I was learning how to be a parent, learning how to be a mom, you know, on my own, and that was hard. And also a little bit of a backstory, I had my son on Martin Luther King's birthday weekend. So the way that it felt is I had my son, and then there was 2 days of school time off for the holiday, and then it was the weekend, and then that next day was like a parent-teacher conference. So the kids went back to school after that. So a total of I only missed a total of 5 days from school after I had my son. And actually not even a full 5 days. I think I only actually missed 2 school days. I think I only actually missed 2 school days. So I'm in the 8th grade too. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I had my son when I was in middle school. So that's that piece of the story. But yeah, so I go back to school 5 days after I had my son. And like I told y'all before, after I had to tell my family that I was pregnant, and just that feeling of disappointment that I had gave them, I wasn't going through that again. So 5 days after giving birth to my son, I was right back at school, and I didn't sleep at all. I would be up with my son, you know, or I would be in school. I would get out of school. I was doing hair at the time. I was doing people that I went to school hair. I was doing people in the neighborhood hair. I was doing like my brother's hair, his friends. That's what I did. So I would get out of school. Right after school, I would do hair. After that, you know, I would have my son. He would be up to like 12 o'clock at night. Then he would get back up at 2 in the morning. He would be back up at 4 in the morning. And then at like 5:30, I'm getting ready to go to school. So I never slept at all. And it was hard. Like, it was just so hard. If y'all thought that this video was going to be a video that like, yeah, I did this and it was so freaking easy and all that, this is not that video, because that point in time was a struggle for me. And even when I look back on it and I think about it, I don't even know how I did it. I don't. Like, I wish I could tell y'all like that I had like a schedule and like I had all of this help and then I had all these things, but that wasn't the case. Now, I will say the help that I did get at this time was the fact that my mom was starting to come around and be a part of my life a lot more during the time that I had my son. So while I was in school, she would watch my son for me, and that was like a big relief because I didn't have to worry about childcare in a sense, because at this point my mom was like still getting herself together too, so there was a lot of times when she was undependable. But for the most part, you know, just having her there, and I kind of didn't really have any other choice at the time because I wasn't put in a situation to where, you know, I could do anything else. And I was very adamant about not doing any type of financial assistance. I just did not want to. Not that I look down upon anybody else that do it or anything like that. It's just that there was a personal choice that I decided to make for me and my son, because with me and the way that I grew up, like all of my family pretty much is on government assistance. And I remember getting pregnant with my son, and I just received so much negative energy from everybody, like so many negative comments, like, you know, all I'm gonna be able to do is like be on welfare, and then I'm gonna need the, you know, government to help take care of my child. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it on my own. And so many girls, you know, use the government to take care of their kids, and that's the reason why people get pregnant, so they can, you know, live off this and live off that. And that had me so tight. I'm not even kidding with y'all. One thing I hate is for somebody to tell me what I can't do, you know, or tell me that I need something. And I just, no matter what situation, no matter how hard it got, I just would not do it. It was like a pride thing for me. Like, I just did not want to prove everybody right and then, you know, be on government assistance and need that to take care of my kid. So that's why I was doing hair, and I was like telling everybody, like, let everybody know that I do hair. And I was really using that money to get things for myself and my son, because my sister was paying, my brother was paying rent and, you know, taking care of the household. I just had to take care of myself and my baby. So the money that I was making from doing hair was enough to cover that. And with my mom being able to watch my son while I went to school, you know, that took care of that portion. So if you was wondering like how I was making it work financially, that's how I was able to do it. Now, a week after I had my son, his father calls me, and I am tight with him. I remember I just answered the phone, and I remember being so mean and nasty to him. But honestly, it was just because I was hurt. Like, I felt like I was like, I asked you, like, I gave you this choice to me, and you like bailed out on me first week. And he kind of explained it to me in a way where like he had just found out, like I just told him about a month or so ago that I was even pregnant. And he's young, you know, he was like, he was scared, and he thought he had more time because my due date originally was February 1st. So he's thinking he has more time, and he hadn't even told his family that I was pregnant. So when I called him to tell him that I was having the baby, he was like, you know, I haven't even told my family. And he said it took him a couple days to process the fact that, you know, that the baby was born. And once he did, he finally told his parents, but he finally told his family, and that they knew, and that everybody wanted to come see the baby. So I was like, fine. And he came, I believe it was like the next day, and I think it was him, his mom, and like his sister or aunt or someone, they came by. They had Pampers and milk and money that they had gave me for the baby. And you know, they just came and spent time with the baby. And I remember when he was leaving, he just was like, I really couldn't accept the fact, you know, that I had a kid until I seen him. He was like, now that I seen him and he looks just like me, he was like, I got a chance to hold him. He was like, now that I got a chance to see him and he looks just like me, and I got a chance to hold him, he was like, it's all starting to like sink in. And he was like, I don't want to miss any of this, like I want to be here. So after that, honestly, he kept his word. Like we didn't have any more issues for a while. So, you know, he would come by like once or twice a week to see the baby. You know, he would bring me money when he had it. We didn't really have like a set amount or time for him to give me money. It was just like whatever he had, he gave it. And it never got to a point where I was like, you know, I need this or I need that, because he was doing it so often that I really didn't have to ask him, you know. And then plus I was getting making my own money doing hair, and we just made it work. And about a couple months, I would say about 2 months after my son was born, we ended up dating again. So yeah, we just really was a team, honestly. Like our situation, like me and my son's father, is kind of different now, but back then, between the two of us, like we made it work. We did what we had to do. We took care of our baby, you know, ourselves. Like we didn't go to our parents for money. We didn't, you know, we wasn't on government assistance. Like I didn't have to put him on child support. Like between the two of us, we were able to come together and do what we had to do for, you know, our baby. And honestly, now that I look back on it, that was such like a big thing to say that we was able to do that, because we were really just kids ourselves. So, you know, and I grew up watching people that was twice our age, you know, not being able to do what we were doing. And you know, I was just so happy. I remember feeling like, you know, even though I was only like a couple months into like being a teen parent, I just remember feeling like, having a feeling like that I could do it, you know. And how we was proving everybody wrong. Like people telling me that I couldn't, you know, that I wasn't going to be able to have my son and go to school, that I wasn't going to be able to take care of him by myself, that, you know, by this point I would have been on government assistance. You know, people telling me that my kid's father wasn't going to be around, telling us that we couldn't do it, and we were doing it. And actually we did it for a long time. And so even though this whole situation is still to this date the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through, it really made the foundation for everything that I am today. Because being a teen mom and being able to come from being a 15-year-old teen mom to where I am today, and knowing that I did it the way that I wanted to do it, despite all the obstacles, despite all the negative energy that I had surrounding me at that time, despite all the people telling me, you know, what I could and couldn't do, despite all of that, I still was able to accomplish everything that I wanted to accomplish. And because I was able to do that, I have always felt like since then I could do anything. Like that whole situation, that whole process that I had to go through really taught me to believe in myself. It really taught me that if I put my mind to something, that I could do it. It really taught me not to make excuses. It taught me accountability. It really taught me a lot about myself, and I'm thankful for it. You know, it's not something that I would say, you know, if I could go back in time, but I had been a teen mom, you know, I don't know. You know, maybe that's just the way my story was supposed to go. Why? I don't know. But what I do know is that it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about life, and it taught me a lot about myself. And I'm just so thankful that during that time, you know, that I had to experience that I had to go through that I had, you know, my mom, my brother, my sister, and my son's father in my life, because those people really was the foundation for me during this time. And without them, without their support, you know, without my kid's father being in the picture, you know, who's to say that my story would have still came out the way that it did? I would like to believe that, you know, I would have still had the willpower, you know, to power through. But I mean, you know, who knows? And luckily for those people, you know, I had it a lot easier. You know, I had that help. You know, I had that encouragement from my brother, because even though I was surrounded by a lot of negativity, you know, he was my positive. You know, he was always in my ear telling me, you know, don't listen to haters. People is going to always tell you that you can't do something because they can't do it, or because they've never seen it done, but you could be the first person to do something. He always used to tell me that. Like, and my sister, she was just really a hard worker. Like, I seen her get up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and go to work and work till 11, 12 o'clock at night, and repeat that process. So, you know, when I was having to go to school, come home, do my homework, do hair, take care of my baby, you know, repeat that process, I couldn't complain about it, because that's what I've seen. You know, I was used to that. I watched my sister, you know, do that to take care of me and my nephew. So because I seen it, you know, it was easier for me to accept that. You know, I seen her go hard, and she was grinding, and she did what she had to do. So I just took it as, if she can do it, you know, I can too. And for my mom, I won't really touch on this subject too much, but, you know, my mom was going through, you know, her own issues and battling with her, you know, her own problems. And she really came in my life at a time where I needed her the most. Because, you know, if I would have had to have childcare, you know, or anything without having her around, you know, that would have been one more thing that I would have had to deal with. And luckily for me having her around, you know, that was my comfort. You know, I didn't have to worry about my baby when I wasn't around. You know, I was getting to experience, like, having my mom around, and she was able to teach me a lot of things about, you know, being a mom, you know, pretty much being a woman in general, because, you know, I'm 15, but I'm a mom, so it's really time to grow up. So I had her around to help me with that, you know. And even my kid's father, you know, during that time, everybody had counted him out, even me at one point, before even giving him a chance. And, you know, at that time, he proved everybody wrong, you know. And I'm so grateful, you know, then and now, that I had him to depend on. You know, I didn't have to take care of my son financially on my own. And that's actually like what played a major part in me being able to continue school, like to be able to graduate, is because I had him to depend on to help take care of my son, you know, with me. So, you know, that's the overall picture of how I was able to make that whole situation work. But I will say this, the whole situation was not easy. There was a lot of nights that I cried. There was a lot of days that I just didn't have any energy. I was moving around like a zombie. I was so tired, you know. There's a lot of times I wanted to give up, and it just was not, it was just not easy. But I just wanted it. That's it. Like, I just wanted it. Like, I did not want to give up. I did not want me becoming a teen mom to be where my story end. I didn't want it to be, I didn't want to be another girl that had a baby young in the hood and stayed there. You know, that's not what I wanted. You know, I didn't want that for my son. You know, I know that, you know, being a teen mom, that the statistics against my son is not good, you know, and I didn't want that. I wanted a better life for myself and a better life for my child more than I wanted sleep, you know. I wanted it more than I wanted to have fun. I wanted it more than I wanted to go out and party with my friends. I wanted it, you know, more than all that other stuff that I didn't get to experience at 15 that everybody else. But, you know, that's the sacrifice that I had to make then, so that way me and my baby can live the way that we do now. And it's not an easy choice to make. It's not an easy choice for any person to make, no matter how old they are. So to be so young and having to make it, you know, it wasn't easy. So that brings me to why I decided to do, you know, this video in the first place. And that's because you never know who needs to hear what. You know, you never know who is, you know, getting ready to be a teen mom, or who's a teen mom right now, or who was a teen mom that's stuck, or anybody, you know, in life that's going through anything. My advice to you would be, don't let it stop you. You know, don't let nobody tell you what you can be and what you can't be. If you want something bad enough, you will do what you got to do to make it happen. And it's as simple as that, you know. And the reason I wanted to upload this video is because a lot of times people, you know, see you and they see you doing good and they think like, you know, that can't be me, or, you know, they think that you haven't experienced anything. Like, I didn't just wake up one day and be who I am, you know, where I am today. That's not how that story went, you know. And I think it's important for me to put that out there, because people need that encouragement, you know. And when I was getting ready to have my son, I didn't get it, you know. I didn't see that. I didn't see any other, you know, women who was talking about being teen moms or things turning around in their life, you know, for the better. You know, you didn't see that. So I just wanted to let you know that it is possible. Anything is possible, you know, regardless of how the situation is, no matter how your story is going, no matter what you got going on, it's possible. All you have to do is want it bad enough. The only thing is, the way how your story is just determines how much work you got to put in. Some people got to put in more work than others to get to the same spot, and that's okay. You know, it might take you a little bit longer, it might take you a little bit more work than the next person, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, we're gonna do what we got to do to get done what we need done, and that's period. Okay, so, you know, and And that's what it's, you know, and that's what it's all about. You just got to decide what you think, you know, is the most important. For me, a better life for my son, for him to not have to grow up the way that I did, for him to not be put in a situation to where he could possibly make the same choices that I did, you know, or worse. You know, that was important to me. Like, I wanted to change our life. I wanted to change our environment so that way I can give him a better chance at life, you know. And that's what was most important to me since I had him. I've always said, you know, when my son is my age, I want him to be better than me. So when he turned 15, I was like, you know, I had him at 15. And to see him now at 15, and he's so much better than I am, he has so many more, you know, he has so many more possibilities for life than I did. You know, I'm grateful for that. You know, that's what I worked for. That's what I sacrificed when I was younger for this right here, which is why, you know, we made that the caption. Yeah, so that is it for this video. I hope you guys was able to take away what I was trying to say in this video, and that is just don't give up. You know, no matter what you've been through, no matter what's going on in your life right now, don't give up. If that's something that you want to do, you just got to figure out a way to do it no matter what, and hold yourself accountable. You know, if you do something, you know, or you mess up, that's okay. You know, don't make excuses for that. Just do what you got to do to get yourself out of that situation, period. Like, you know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you was able to get something from it. I hope it told you a lot about me. But we're not done yet, because we still have to go to part 2. And in part 2, I will be talking about when I became a teen mom ×2 at 17.